Most people assume that once they hit a certain age, intimacy and sexuality simply fade away, and that's okay. But what if that quiet fading is actually hurting your body in ways you never realized? Let's get real. No one talks about this during your annual checkups. You sit through the usual blood pressure tests and lab work, maybe discuss cholesterol, but your doctor probably never brings up sexual health unless you do. And even then, it's often brushed aside. But here's the truth, neglecting your sexual health after 60 doesn't just mean a change in lifestyle. It can accelerate your physical decline. This isn't locker room talk. This is biology. It's about how your body works and how staying connected to your sexuality, even in private ways like masturbation, can be a vital key to longevity, strength, and emotional well-being. Let me explain. Sexual activity, including solo activity, is more than just pleasure. It regulates testosterone, keeps stress hormones like cortisol in check, maintains healthy circulation, and even stimulates brain chemicals that keep your mind sharp. When seniors stop engaging in any form of sexual release, the body responds quietly but powerfully. Circulation to the prostate slows, stress hormones stay elevated, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a critical compound for memory and focus, drops, and the result, you feel tired. You bounce back from illness more slowly. You lose your edge. But that's just the beginning. Let's talk muscle loss. Something that becomes more pressing with each passing year. One of the most overlooked impacts of abandoning sexual activity is the way it speeds up sarcopenia, or age-related muscle wasting. And it's not just a theory. I've seen this happen firsthand. Take Harold, an 82-year-old retired contractor who once built homes with his bare hands. After losing his wife and retreating completely from sexual activity, he began to deteriorate. Within just 2 years, he lost 12 pounds of lean muscle without changing his diet or activity level. He could no longer twist open a jar or walk with confidence. His body simply stopped maintaining the tissue it used to support so easily. Then there was Margaret, a 76-year-old widow who lived alone. She felt exhausted all the time. Even carrying groceries became a challenge. When we tested her grip strength, it had plummeted by 40% in just 18 months. Hormone tests revealed severely suppressed levels. No intimacy, no sexual expression, and her body began downshifting critical systems for muscle maintenance and energy. Why does this happen? Because every time you engage in sexual activity, your body releases anabolic hormones, testosterone, and growth hormone that tell your cells to maintain, repair, and build muscle. These hormones support the very systems that help you walk, stand tall, and remain independent. Now, testosterone naturally declines with age. That's a fact. But when you stop all sexual activity, the decline speeds up. That means less energy, slower healing, and higher risk of conditions that steal your independence. Conditions like sarcopenia, which already affects nearly half of adults by age 80. And that leads to falls, fractures, hospital stays, and often permanent mobility loss. This isn't just about libido, it's about preserving your freedom to move, to stay strong, to take care of yourself without relying on others. And let's not forget mental health. Sexual expression triggers the release of dopamine and oxytocin chemicals that promote joy, calm, and emotional resilience. Seniors who stay sexually active often report better sleep, sharper memory, and even lower rates of depression. So no, masturbation isn't something to be dismissed as irrelevant after a certain age. It's not embarrassing. It's essential. It's a natural, powerful, and completely free way to support your health from the inside out. Your sexual health is part of your whole health. They're not separate. They never were. Here's what I want you to take away from this. Staying sexually active in whatever way feels right and safe for you isn't just about intimacy. It's about preserving strength, protecting your brain, keeping your hormones in balance, and staying in charge of your life. If you've been taught to see this topic as taboo or unimportant past a certain age, it's time to rewrite that script. This is your body. This is your wellness. And you have the power to support it every single day. Stay tuned with Healthy Hues Wellness for more clear, research-backed insights tailored for adults over 60 who want to live with strength, clarity, and independence. Because aging well isn't about giving things up, it's about keeping what matters most. Less muscle means less movement. And the less you move, the more muscle you lose. It becomes a downward spiral, one that many adults over 60 quietly fall into without realizing the real cause behind their physical decline. Here's the part. No one told you. Maintaining sexual activity. Even solo sexual activity plays a scientifically measurable role in keeping your muscles strong and your body resilient as you age. It's not just folklore or theory anymore. Clinical research now supports what many health professionals have long observed: seniors who stay sexually active, including through masturbation, enjoy better muscle retention, steadier hormone levels, and greater physical independence compared to those who don't. In one comprehensive study published in a respected geriatric journal, researchers found a clear link between sexual function and hand grip strength in men over 65. That's not just a random detail. Grip strength is one of the strongest predictors of longevity and physical independence in older adults. Another study showed that men who regularly engaged in sexual activity had significantly higher levels of testosterone and growth hormone. These are the exact hormones your body relies on to maintain lean muscle and stave off frailty. When you're sexually aroused and experience release, your endocrine system goes to work. It releases a surge of testosterone, growth hormone, and other anabolic signals that tell your muscles to stay firm, repair themselves, and keep going. This isn't about vanity. It's about the core engine of your body staying online, and the consequences of letting this system fall dormant go well beyond muscle tone. Once muscle starts breaking down faster than your body can rebuild, everything else begins to unravel. Your metabolism slows. Blood sugar becomes harder to control. Bone density drops, making your skeleton more vulnerable to fractures. Even your cardiovascular system starts to feel the added stress, all from a silent shift that often starts with reduced sexual activity. I've seen men who once played tennis every weekend, hiked trails with their grandchildren, or easily lifted bags of groceries start to lose those abilities. Not because of age alone, but because the signals that tell their body to stay strong had gone quiet. With the disappearance of sexual expression, the body enters a kind of survival mode. It stops building, it starts conserving. And the long-term result is decline. That's why it's time to challenge the stigma around solo intimacy. Masturbation is not shameful, it's not dirty, it's not something to feel guilty or embarrassed about. For many older adults, it is one of the last accessible and side-effect-free ways to keep critical hormones active without turning to medications, injections, or expensive therapies. It's a natural form of hormone therapy, one that your body responds to because it was designed that way. So if you've been feeling weaker lately, if going up the stairs takes more effort, if your arms and legs look thinner, despite eating well, it might be time to ask a different kind of question. Could the shift in your sexual health be playing a bigger role than you thought? Now let's take a deeper look into how your body uses testosterone and growth hormone as its internal repair team, and what happens when that team goes off duty. Robert, a 79-year-old retired science teacher, came in for a routine checkup. Always curious, always articulate. But that day, something was different. As we sat down, he leaned in and quietly said, "I feel like I'm slipping away." He wasn't talking about memory loss. He still remembered details like the names of every Apollo mission. But something in his energy had faded. He wasn't sleeping through the night anymore. His mood shifted without warning. Some days he felt anxious. Other days he just felt nothing. Flat, numb, disconnected. He had lost his spark. After running a full panel, the picture became clear. Robert had extremely low testosterone, elevated cortisol, the stress hormone, and disrupted neurotransmitter patterns related to mood and sleep. But here's the part that really mattered. He and his wife had not been sexually active in over 3 years. Not together, not solo, no intimacy, no stimulation, no release, and his body was reacting accordingly. What most people don't realize is that sexual stimulation activates powerful neurochemical pathways. It's not just about testosterone or libido, it's about whole body regulation. During and after sexual activity, the brain releases oxytocin, known as the bonding hormone, which calms your nervous system and helps regulate mood. dopamine. The pleasure and motivation chemical also gets a boost, helping you stay mentally sharp and emotionally resilient. This isn't optional biology, it's how your body was built to function at every age. When sexual expression disappears, your brain misses out on key signals that keep you motivated, balanced, and engaged with life. Your muscles miss out on hormonal support, your sleep patterns start to break down, your metabolism slows. And over time, what looks like normal aging is often a preventable state of decline. So the message is simple. Don't let shame or outdated beliefs rob you of one of the most powerful tools you still have to protect your health. Sexual activity in whatever form works for you is not just valid, it's vital. It's a natural, safe, and accessible form of care that supports your muscles, your hormones, your heart, and your mood. It's never too late to reclaim your strength. You deserve to feel like yourself again, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally too. Your biology hasn't retired, and neither should your right to thrive. Healthy Hues Wellness is here to support you on that journey, because aging with strength isn't about avoiding decline, it's about choosing vitality one informed decision at a time. Dopamine helps drive your motivation. Serotonin keeps your mood steady and your sleep balanced. Endorphins act as your body's natural shield against pain and emotional strain. These aren't just buzzwords. They're key players in how your body holds on to energy, strength, and emotional stability as you age. But when hormone levels drop, especially due to a long absence of sexual activity, a silent chain reaction begins. It happened to Robert. First, his sleep quality declined. He couldn't stay asleep through the night and woke up feeling foggy, tired, and irritable. That poor sleep spiked his cortisol levels, the stress hormone that, when left unchecked, chips away at your immune system. With cortisol running high, small injuries took longer to heal. Fatigue lingered even after rest. His energy felt stuck in neutral. This isn't just about getting older. It's about disrupted internal rhythms, those governed by hormones your body once released regularly through physical intimacy. Then came the mental toll. With dopamine, low motivation and focus fell off. Tasks he once enjoyed became obligations. Even deciding what to eat or where to go became difficult. It wasn't about mindset, it was chemistry. Oxytocin, the hormone that helps you feel close to others, remained suppressed. Slowly, the ability to emotionally connect even with loved ones faded. Isolation grew, disconnection set in. And the downward spiral gained momentum. Your body depends on a delicate hormonal balance. When it's intact, you sleep better, think more clearly, and recover faster. When that balance erodes, you're at higher risk for depression, cognitive decline, and even accelerated aging. Physical activity decreases, social connection weakens, independence slowly slips away. But decline isn't inevitable. Sarah, a 74-year-old widow, had been feeling persistently tired and emotionally flat for years. She hadn't engaged in any form of sexual intimacy, partnered or solo, for nearly a decade. During a quiet and respectful conversation, she decided to explore self-pleasure, even though it felt unfamiliar at first. What followed surprised both of us. Within weeks, her sleep improved. She felt more rested. Her mood began to lift. Her thoughts became clearer. Lab tests showed a meaningful improvement in her hormone profile. With guidance, she reduced her antidepressant dosage. Her vitality began returning, not because of a new medication or a strict diet, but because she allowed her biology to function as it was meant to. There's a misconception that sexuality fades into irrelevance after a certain age, but scientific evidence tells a different story. Regular sexual stimulation, including masturbation, helps maintain hormonal balance, supports emotional resilience, and encourages physical wellness. It's not a luxury, it's a basic part of staying well. Ignoring this truth does more than delay healing. It creates a silence that can slowly diminish your quality of life, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Even more concerning is how these hormonal shifts affect your cardiovascular health. When testosterone and other key hormones drop due to sexual inactivity, the impact reaches beyond mood or muscle loss. it puts your heart at risk. James, 68, was a retired executive who had recently suffered a heart attack. His follow-up exams revealed stiffer arteries, higher blood pressure, and a decline in vascular function compared to a year prior. His lifestyle hadn't changed much. He ate well exercised and kept a routine. But one thing had changed. He had stopped all forms of sexual activity. Erectile dysfunction had made him feel embarrassed and uncertain. He began avoiding intimacy altogether, believing that disengaging was safer than the pain of potential failure. But this avoidance came with a cost. His hormone levels plummeted, and with them his heart lost vital support. Sexual inactivity wasn't just an emotional burden, it was a physical risk factor. The heart needs more than healthy food and exercise. It needs hormonal input, regular circulation boosts, and biochemical signals that keep blood vessels elastic and responsive. These are triggered in part by sexual arousal and release, whether through partnered intimacy or solo activity. What James didn't know is what many others also miss. By cutting off sexual expression, he was removing one of his body's natural defenses against cardiovascular decline. This topic deserves honest attention, not to provoke but to inform, not to make anyone uncomfortable but to empower those who deserve better answers about their health. Aging doesn't mean shutting down vital parts of yourself. It means finding new ways to nurture them, maintain balance, and support your well-being from the inside out. Sexual wellness isn't a footnote. It's part of the foundation that supports your brain, your heart, your muscles, your mood, and your quality of life. Choosing to reconnect with it, whatever that looks like for you, isn't indulgence. It's intelligent, evidence-backed self-care. Your body knows how to heal. You just have to give it the signals to begin. What many people never hear from their doctor is that the cardiovascular system doesn't just need medication or diet changes. It thrives on stimulation. It needs movement. Regular increases in heart rate, healthy blood flow. Without these inputs, the system becomes sluggish, less responsive, more vulnerable. Sexual activity, whether through intimacy with a partner or solo stimulation, provides that vital spark. During sexual arousal and release, the heart rate naturally increases, blood vessels widen, muscles throughout the body contract and relax rhythmically. This isn't just about pleasure, it's physiological exercise. These moments of activation improve circulation, help keep blood vessels elastic, and support heart strength over time. One of the most crucial effects of this process is the release of nitric oxide, a molecule essential for heart health. Nitric oxide tells blood vessels to relax and expand, improving oxygen delivery and lowering the risk of clots. It plays a direct role in controlling blood pressure and supporting smooth arterial function. When sexual activity stops, that natural release slows down. Blood vessels stiffen, circulation weakens, blood pressure starts to rise. And what looks like just aging is often the body signaling that it's being deprived of a stimulus it needs. This isn't guesswork. Studies consistently show that sexually inactive men have a significantly higher risk of heart disease, stroke, and even early death. These are real consequences rooted in biological neglect, often triggered by shame, silence, or misconceptions about what's normal as we age. And it's not just men who face the consequences. For women, the absence of sexual stimulation can disrupt hormone-sensitive systems in a different but equally damaging way. Estrogen, a hormone critical for cardiovascular protection, declines after menopause, but regular sexual activity has been shown to help maintain more stable estrogen levels and support healthy blood vessel function. Postmenopausal women who remain sexually active often demonstrate lower blood pressure, better heart rhythms, and more resilient vascular health compared to those who are completely inactive. This kind of stimulation doesn't just keep the heart beating, it keeps it thriving. It supports emotional bonding. Yes, but it also preserves critical physiological processes that affect everything from endurance to immune strength. In men, the story often begins with declining testosterone. When sexual activity decreases, so do hormone levels. That drop doesn't just influence libido, it strikes at the heart, literally. Low testosterone has been linked directly to reduced blood vessel elasticity and increased cardiovascular risk. Over time, this decline contributes to erectile dysfunction, which then feeds a damaging cycle. The fear of not performing leads to avoidance. Avoidance worsens hormonal decline, the heart weakens, the body loses energy, and the cycle repeats. The signs often show up in subtle ways: breathlessness during short walks, needing to rest halfway through the day, feeling drained by minor tasks, getting up from a chair with more effort than before. Many brush these off as signs of aging, but in truth, they're signs of a system that isn't being challenged enough to stay strong. And as energy fades, lifestyle habits begin to change without much notice. Social invitations become easier to decline, errands are postponed, events are missed. Bit by bit, your world becomes smaller. The physical decline blends into emotional withdrawal, leading to loneliness, isolation, and a deeper sense of fatigue. What's frustrating is how often the root issue is missed. Doctors will treat the blood pressure, they'll address poor stamina or prescribe medications for circulation. But rarely do they ask whether a lack of sexual activity might be the real underlying cause. Too many people silently accept this decline as inevitable, but it's not. The body is remarkably responsive even in later life. One of the most overlooked but powerful tools for restoring cardiovascular vitality is regular sexual stimulation. Solo or partnered, it reactivates systems that are built to move, respond, and regenerate. Your heart is a muscle. And like any muscle, it needs consistent, healthy engagement to stay strong. When you begin stimulating it again, blood pressure can improve. Circulation becomes more efficient. Energy returns. Strength builds. Not just physically, but emotionally. If fear, shame, or past struggles have kept you inactive, understand this. Your body hasn't given up on you. It still wants to respond. It still wants to be strong. All it needs is the signal that it's safe to come back online. And just when you think the consequences end with fatigue or blood pressure, there's another layer of impact many older adults endure: quietly chronic, escalating pain. Your body comes equipped with its own natural pain relief system, and just like your heart, that system needs activation to work properly. Consistent sexual stimulation triggers the release of endorphins, the body's internal painkillers. These chemicals reduce discomfort, soothe tension, and help you manage both physical and emotional stress. When stimulation disappears, that pain relief system goes quiet, aches last longer, discomfort becomes constant, movement becomes more difficult. Not because of injury, but because the brain isn't getting the signals it needs to turn down the volume on pain. The longer the silence, the louder that pain becomes. This isn't about chasing youth. It's about preserving wellness. Sexual activity in later life is not indulgent, inappropriate, or unnecessary. It's a fundamental part of your body's built-in design for staying strong, healthy, and independent. Denying the truth doesn't make aging easier, it makes it harder. There is strength in knowing how your body works, and even more strength in choosing to support it. Eleanor was 81, a retired nurse with a sharp mind and a fiercely independent spirit. She had spent her life caring for others, but now she was the one in need of relief. When she came into the office, tears in her eyes, her voice trembled as she said, "The medication isn't working anymore. I hurt everywhere. I'm exhausted. I can't sleep." For years, she had been living with arthritis. At first, painkillers helped, but their effect wore off quickly. Eventually, even the strongest medications barely touched the discomfort. Her nights were broken by constant tossing and turning. Days were defined by fatigue and frustration. It wasn't just physical pain, it was emotional exhaustion. During a longer check-in, Eleanor shared something she had never mentioned before. Her husband had passed away 5 years ago. Since then, she had completely shut herself off from any form of sexual intimacy. Not just with a partner, she had avoided all forms of self-touch and physical pleasure. And quietly around that same time, her pain had started to grow worse. This story is not rare. What many don't realize is that sexual inactivity doesn't just lead to loneliness or emotional distance. It triggers deep chemical changes in the body. When stimulation disappears, your body stops releasing key neurochemicals like endorphins and oxytocin. These natural compounds aren't just feel-good hormones, they're your body's internal pain relievers. They follow the same neural pathways targeted by prescription painkillers, except they do it safely, naturally, and without side effects or risk of dependence. During sexual arousal and orgasm, these chemicals surge. They calm the nervous system, dull pain receptors, and support deep restorative sleep. That chemical shield often lingers for hours after intimacy ends. But when that part of life disappears, so does the protection. The body goes silent, pain becomes louder, sensitivity increases. Medications that once worked now feel ineffective because the body has stopped helping itself. Scientific studies have shown that older adults who maintain some form of sexual activity report lower levels of chronic pain and higher pain tolerance, not because they're lucky, not because they're stronger, but because their bodies are still producing the same natural defenses that all of us are wired to generate. When that chemical balance is lost, the impact runs deeper than just physical suffering. Sleep becomes shallow, mornings start with soreness. That pain begins to wear down your mood, slowly at first, then all at once. The emotional toll builds as energy fades, chronic pain feeds depression, anxiety creeps in. You lose confidence in your body. You stop doing the things that once brought joy. That's what happened to Eleanor. Her world grew smaller. She stopped walking her dog, stopped meeting friends for lunch. Even going to the mailbox felt like a burden. The medications caused side effects, brain fog, digestive issues, problems with balance. Her independence, once a defining trait, was slipping away. This is the cycle so many fall into. Less pleasure leads to less movement leads to more pain leads to more medication. The cycle repeats until the spark that keeps you feeling alive starts to fade. But Eleanor's story didn't end in that downward spiral. With encouragement, she began reconnecting with her body. There was no rush, no shame, just gentle, regular moments of self-touch. Small steps that signaled to her nervous system, I'm still here, I still deserve comfort. Within 3 months, something remarkable happened. Eleanor started sleeping through the night. Her arthritis flares became less intense. She cut her pain medication by more than half. She smiled more. Her voice had strength again. Her posture lifted. One day she looked up and said, I wish someone had told me this earlier. I thought shutting down intimacy was the proper thing to do after losing my husband, but no one told me what it would do to my body. That's the deeper truth. Your body doesn't respond to taboos, it responds to chemistry. And the absence of sexual activity, especially self-pleasure, can quietly take away the natural resources your body needs to manage pain, sleep well, and feel alive. For many, this information comes too late. Years of suffering are endured in silence under the weight of outdated beliefs, but it doesn't have to be that way. The body still remembers what to do. It's waiting for the signal. It's waiting to respond. Sometimes healing doesn't start in the pharmacy. Sometimes it begins with reclaiming the most human part of yourself. When sexual activity disappears from your life, the impact goes far beyond the physical. It doesn't just increase pain, it robs your nervous system of the very tools it uses to regulate stress, manage fear, and maintain emotional balance. And over time, that loss can change how you think, how you connect, and how you see yourself. Pain is real, but it's not the only thing at stake. What happens in your body when intimacy vanishes can reach deeper into places most people never expect. Into memory, into clarity, into focus, into the very core of who you are. Arthur used to be a powerful figure. At 72, he had decades of leadership behind him. He ran a successful business, made sharp decisions, and carried himself with quiet strength. But when he sat across from me recently, he wasn't the same man. His hands trembled, not from age, but from anxiety. He avoided his wife's gaze, not because he didn't care, but because he feared her touch. At night, lying beside her, one thought haunted him. What if I can't perform? What if I disappoint her? Arthur hadn't shared this with anyone, not even her. He had slowly stopped all forms of sexual expression. At first, he told himself it was no longer necessary. Then came the avoidance. Then the shame. Eventually, even self-touch felt like a distant memory, irrelevant, foreign, maybe even wrong. What Arthur was experiencing wasn't just fear. It was a form of somatic estrangement, a quiet, growing disconnection from his own body. And it happens more often than people realize, especially among men who silently wrestle with the possibility of sexual failure. The fear tells them to stop trying, to stop touching, to stop feeling. They retreat from their bodies and in doing so begin to lose themselves. This isn't just emotional, there are real biological consequences. Sexual activity, including masturbation, activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the part of your brain responsible for calm rest and recovery. It lowers cortisol, your main stress hormone. It helps you decompress, release tension, and feel emotionally safe in your own skin. When that activity stops, so does that natural relief. Cortisol builds up, stress compounds, sleep becomes broken, appetite shifts, energy dips, and the effects spread. Confidence erodes, not just in the bedroom, but in conversations, decisions, and relationships. That's what happened to Arthur. He became quieter at dinner, less engaged with his grandchildren, less willing to leave the house. He didn't feel sick. He felt small, like a shadow of who he used to be. That transformation didn't come from disease, it came from disconnection. And he's not alone. Margaret spent most of her life caring for others, raising her children, supporting her husband, nursing her aging parents. At 69, her house was finally quiet. For the first time in decades, she had space to exhale, but instead of peace, something else crept in. Anxiety, restlessness, the kind that makes no sense. Her palms would sweat behind the steering wheel. Crowds made her heart race. Sleep was shallow and full of interruptions. What changed Margaret had let go of something she hadn't even realized mattered, her sexual self. After menopause and the loss of her husband, she told herself that chapter was over. She stopped touching her body, stopped entertaining desire, stopped seeing herself as someone who deserved a sensual joy. And in doing so, she unknowingly broke a connection between body and mind, between sensation and identity. This wasn't just the loss of pleasure, it was the quiet unraveling of confidence. Her emotional resilience thinned, her sense of self wavered, the part of her that once felt grounded and alive faded. And the result wasn't just physical, it was psychological. Each day felt a little less certain, a little more fearful, a little more disconnected. What Margaret believed was the natural thing to do after a certain age was in truth denying her body something vital. Sexual expression isn't about performance or appearances, it's about chemistry. It's about maintaining a lifeline to clarity, calm, and connection. When that line is cut, even unintentionally, the effects ripple into every part of life. The stories of Arthur and Margaret reveal a truth too often buried under stigma or silence. That sexual health isn't just about intimacy, it's about integrity. The integration of your physical, emotional, and cognitive well-being. It's not something we outgrow, it's something we are designed to carry with us for life. Disconnection may feel invisible at first, but its impact is real, and its reversal is possible. Because even after years of silence, the body still knows how to respond. All it needs is permission to feel again, to remember again, to reconnect, without shame, without fear. Just a gentle return to something that has always belonged to you. The human body was never meant to shut down emotionally just because life gets quieter. It's built for connection, even especially with itself. One of the simplest and most natural ways to nurture that connection is through self-pleasure. Masturbation isn't about vanity or lust, it's a quiet act of self-respect. A gentle message to your nervous system that says, I'm still here, I still matter, I belong to myself. Biologically, it's incredibly powerful. It helps release dopamine, the brain's motivation and pleasure chemical. It activates oxytocin, which builds emotional comfort. It lowers cortisol, the hormone tied to chronic stress and fatigue. These aren't abstract benefits. They're chemical responses your body still knows how to produce. No matter your age, even moderate sexual activity, whether solo or shared with a partner, has been linked to lower blood pressure, improved mood, and a deeper emotional resilience in older adults. The evidence is clear. Reconnection is healing. Margaret's story shows us what this can look like when she slowly allowed herself to explore physical intimacy again, not for anyone else, not for performance, just for herself. Her world changed. Her anxiety eased. Her sleep deepened. She stopped feeling overwhelmed by everyday tasks, and one day she looked in the mirror and smiled, not with pride, but with recognition. She remembered who she was. That transformation didn't come from a pill or a new routine. It started with something simple and profound: permission. The permission to feel again, to touch, to enjoy her own presence without shame, without apology. Self-pleasure offers that doorway. No rules, no pressure, no expectations, just reconnection. And when that reconnection happens, something deep inside awakens. A sense of worth returns. Not because of youth, not because of someone else's validation, but because of the choice to value your body as it is today. Margaret didn't just find relief. She reclaimed a part of herself that she thought had disappeared forever. This kind of change isn't rare. After more than 2 decades working in sexual wellness, one truth has become undeniably clear. The heaviest burdens many older adults carry don't show up on lab tests. They live in the quiet spaces of self-doubt, in the mirror, in the silence behind closed doors. It's the man who no longer feels proud of his reflection. The woman who avoids her body because she's been taught to believe its value has expired. These aren't markers of normal aging. They're consequences of disconnection. And your body, your chemistry, your nervous system, they're all signaling that it's time to come home to yourself. Abandoning your sexual health triggers a cascade of physical and emotional shifts, but none of them are irreversible. Reconnection is not about chasing youth. It's about respecting your present. When you reconnect, blood flow improves, pelvic organs receive vital circulation, cortisol levels balance, sleep gets better, your thoughts feel clearer, your emotions feel steadier. This isn't indulgence, it's preventive care. A form of wellness that strengthens your brain, supports your heart, and affirms your identity, and it's available to you right now exactly as you are. Cultural shame has no place in your healing. Outdated beliefs should never be the reason you abandon vitality. Reclaiming this part of your self-care doesn't require perfection, it requires curiosity and compassion. Start gently, start now. Your health deserves to be honored, not just your heart rate or blood pressure, but the full spectrum of what makes you feel alive. This is about more than maintaining function. It's about remembering your wholeness. You are still here, and you are still worthy of care.